Anyway, I'm Paul Krofssik with Digital Watchdog. I think I even have my picture right there. Got to update it though, the hair is a little grayer. I'm Director of Training here at Digital Watchdog. Today we'll be talking about our new NDAA compliant PTZ camera and some updates and info on Digital Watchdog Spectrum. All right, so we're going to jump into our new MEGApix PTZ camera. First off, 2.1 megapixel with a 30x optical zoom. This does have our Starlight technology, 360 endless panning rotation, and a vector drive. The vector drive makes the camera run quieter and also lowers actual vibrations in the camera. So as the camera's moving, you're not getting shake from the motor running. That's what the vector drive gives you. The 30x optical zoom with glass, those glass elements, allows you to pull in and pull in details from very far away. And also you can activate the 10x digital zoom. Cameras equipped with wide dynamic range allow you to see stuff in dark areas or light areas depending on the lighting conditions, and it does move dynamically. Because these cameras tend to get used more than a regular camera because you can move them around, the 3D noise reduction is great at night when you're peering into darker areas. The noise tends to make things less recognizable, and so the noise reduction is great for that. And it's equipped with H.265, and Spectrum will actually go in, switch the camera to H.265 when it's recognized under the new release, or you can have it still run in H.264 mode. So let's talk a little bit about camera operation. And so the camera, you can access all the setup from the Spectrum software. Okay, so this is the camera setup page. You'd right mouse button click, go to camera settings, and then you'd click web page, and you can bring up the web page of the camera and manipulate some of the things here, but it really allows you to go into setup and tweak and change the camera. And of course, you can move camera to different positions and adjust the pan and tilt speed, as well as the zoom speed here, or switch to manual focus if you want. So you can do some stuff right from the setup page and then go back to Spectrum, and let's say your pan and tilt speed would then be saved and the camera would pan faster or pan slower, depending on your application. So other things you can change. You can change the camera's base resolution. You may want to be recording at a lower resolution for some reason. You're going over a wireless or a very slow internet line back to the recorder. You can change what's called the GOP, which is the group of pictures, which basically tells the camera stream how many times to create how many times it creates a keyframe. You can set a target bit rate, and then again, if you're using these slower wireless, bad connections, DSLs or whatever, you can also activate the smart bit rate control here. That'll adjust for either quality, which means it'll drop a frame, or frame rate priority means it'll drop the quality a little bit to get you there, to get the signal in. I mean, again, most of the time these are hooked into standard networks that are switch, camera plugged into switch, switch plugged into server. So usually latency is not a problem, but you do have these options in here to allow you to force the camera and then the network to accept the frame rate from the camera. So keep that in mind, especially if you're doing stuff over wireless and things like that. So other things is the on-screen display setup. So you can have it display the date and time. So I have the date and time down here. You can create a user text, so you can give the camera its name, Northwest camera, whatever, and even put in the camera's position as relative to how much it's zoomed in and where it is in the 3D space that it orients to, its XY axis. So you can also do privacy masking. So privacy masking, again, PTZ camera, you can have the camera on a commercial building, but also maybe have some residential nearby. And in some parts of the world, including Canada, they actually use privacy masking more than here, but we've gotten requests even down here in Florida where there was a commercial buildings and there's PTZ cameras being put outside and they didn't want anyone being able to peep in the windows. And the privacy masks are dynamic. So what that means is the camera, as the camera moves, the privacy mask will either go out of view or come into view. And so we're going to show you here actually how to set it up. And again, you're going to the setup of the camera from Spectrum. You go to the privacy mask tab. I tend to open this up a little bit more. Just makes it easier for me to read. You don't have to do that. Make sure active it's on. Choose which privacy mask you want to create, and then you can just draw a box. So let's say that building across the street, we wanted to, for whatever reason, mask it out. Click save. It'll then create a masking point, and then we can create another one. We can create up to 16 of these. All right. And then, we'll close the setup window. We'll then see it inside Spectrum. So we have those areas blocked. So I'm just going to run a preset. So we're just going to have it whip over to the preset, and then those privacy masks disappear. If, let's say, I get in and I'm near one of those privacy masks, it'll actually drop in to where it needs to be in order to not show that area. So again, privacy mask, not used a lot on standard cameras, but on PTZ cameras, we just get more and more requests, especially when you're dealing with mixed use property, some residential, some commercial. So just keep that in mind. That's in there. Also, another feature is the camera's bubble structure allows you to get the tilt of the camera above the horizon. So you can actually have up to 95-degree tilt angle. So this camera PTZ happens to be about 14 feet high. That flag's about 60 feet high across the street. And I'm just, forced the camera to tilt up and, take a look at it. So again, you can do other stuff with that. It just allows you to get a little more capability out of the camera if there's, for some reason, you want to get and look sort of over the horizon. So again, one of those things to keep in mind, it's a special capability built into the camera. And now we're going to talk about PTZ settings, because again, as opposed to standard cameras, PTZ cameras have more settings. So do we want the auto flip on? That means if the camera's spinning around, will it flip around the lens? Do we want to have a parking action? So after a certain amount of time, if the camera is not being used, it goes back to a home position. Okay, and the home position could be a tour. Or do you want to, on power up, camera powers down, it powers up. Maybe it runs through a bunch of presets, so it goes through a tour. And this is also where you can activate the digital zoom. So again, there's a few extra bits of functionality in the camera, and you can find those under the PTZ settings. So another bunch of camera operations is our image adjustment. So you can go in and adjust the sharpness. Okay, so that's gives you edge sharpness, may increase picture quality. Your exposure. So your exposure, I'm actually going to pause it here. So these are your different settings for your shutter speed. So you can set it on manual instead of fixed shutter speed, but because usually PTZ cameras are outside, you probably don't want to do that, but you can set shutter priority. Iris priority is the amount of light you're letting in, and bright mode. So depending on your situation, you'd set one of these. I find shutter priority to be the most useful looking at the street because you're watching cars go by. And if you set your shutter speed higher than normal, let's say normal is 1/30th of a second, and you set it for 200th of a second or 300th of a second, you're going to see the cars more clearly. There's going to be a lot less motion blur. So any frame is going to be a freeze frame. Okay. So again, you can go in and adjust different functions on here for exposure and things like that. You can leave it on auto. The auto function works great. It tends to try to want to be around that 1/30th to tops 1/20th of a second shutter speed. And you can go in and adjust all your other settings. You have your network settings in here. This is where you go in, and if you needed to set your IP address, we've got your auto IP, your on VIF, whether to turn on UPnP. If the camera's out on the internet, DDNS, it has a server in it that'll send out emails, and of course will give us the RTSP information. So again, a lot of different settings in here. And again, we always say review review the manual, but really we'd like you to get familiar with some of these. Some of these are very helpful settings. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about a special feature now, what I call an advanced feature. So advanced feature is you can actually take the camera down, you can put an SD card into the camera and do local recording of the camera. Now this is separate and above from what Spectrum's doing. But what it'll give you is, let's say this camera's moving around, it's in a critical area. For some reason, it's tours are still running, it's still getting power, but it's not talking back to the server for some reason. Server's having a problem, something like that. It'll still record the critical functions on its presets, okay? Or just what it's looking at and zoomed in, because with the 30x zoom, you can zoom in and get some really detailed shots from this. So again, just an added functionality. Manufacturers, we've tested our SanDisk, Samsung, Transcend, Micron, up to 128 gig, class 10 micro SD card. So again, something to keep in mind. Some accessories for the camera are ceiling mount brackets, wall mount bracket, which we have this one mounted with a wall mount bracket, a flush mount bracket, so it'll put it up into a ceiling, and of course your parapet mounts, pole mount, and corner mount camera. So again, we have all the accessories available for this. All right, and now let's talk about some advanced PTZ functionality with IVA. So this setting here has one of our IVA cameras, okay, set to trigger, and we're going to roll this back, set to trigger when a vehicle goes by in one direction. So it triggers that, the PTZ camera zooms in, and I just want to get a little better look at that vehicle. Now I could set another one going the other way, so a vehicle going this way, I can zoom in. Because I put the line here, I actually think I've got to move it over and put it there so it reacts just a hair sooner, so the camera will whip over. And also I can adjust the pan speed and the tilt speed and everything. So again, you can go in and have it react to something on the screen. So we've got our camera with the analytics in it, and it's telling this PTZ camera what to do, okay? Zoom in, take a look at something a little closer. And because the IVA is discriminatory, if a person walks by, it's not going to react to it. It's only going to be vehicles. And because you can create classifications, you can have larger vehicles, so it's only trucks or only a person. We've had one gentleman who only wanted to, create events for skateboarders. Skateboarders were coming in and, making a mess or creating problems and stuff like that. And it's actually relatively easy to set up. I go in and I set my presets first. So I create my presets. Okay, so I got my presets. I know what they are. I got my zoom line. I got parking lot 3. We've got a thing here for Evan's truck. We can have it zoom in on Evan's truck if there's someone hanging out by his truck, or whatever. He's got a brand new truck. So whatever. Then we go in and we set our rules in the IVA camera. Now I have, I think, 7 videos on how this works. And as we expand Spectrum and expand how the IVA cameras work, we'll have more videos than that. But if you want to go know how to create a rule and set up a rule, you can do this. But basically what I do is I created a direction line, set it. I think this is 275 degrees because it starts here. This is the direction. And you kind of flip it around. You can make the line a little bigger, a little smaller. You can move it around there. And then you go in. And so I've got my rule created. And then I go in and I create my rule in Spectrum. So I've got my analytic event, the source camera, and the target camera. And then I tell it what to do. And then here's a little video on how to set it up. So you go add, analytic event, choose your camera. Okay, so that's the analytic event from that camera. Now I'm going to say I'm going to execute a PTZ preset. I'm going to choose my PTZ camera, which is right now the only one on there. So it's easy. And I called that preset line zoom. And I want it to happen instantly. I don't want it to, not react. I can set a schedule. Maybe this only works, between 8 and 6 during the day. Then I apply. and then I can go over and set my which event I want. So now I have my preset done. So a vehicle will go by and force the camera over to its position. So that's a little bit about that camera. We have a demo on our Tampa demo site and our California demo site. So by all means, if you want to, you can log in over there. You look on our website for our demos and take a look at those. And if not, talk to your sales rep and they'll log in and walk you through some of the other functionality of it. So let's talk a little bit about Spectrum 4.2. So this is sort of a review. So this year we've had a lot of changes and advancements into Spectrum, and some things sometimes get a little lost. It's a great product. It does a lot of stuff, and I just wanted to go through a few things. So as you know, Spectrum's open architecture and cross-platform, super easy to use interface for setting things up and retrieving video. There's only one version of the software, so the enterprise features are standard. We've got cameras, PTZ cameras with analytics on it, so we have a pretty complete IP solution. Lifetime upgrades, we have yet to charge annual agreements. We have yet to charge for a software upgrade. And one other feature, the licenses are transferable between servers. Okay, so you have a server go down, something happened, you need to transfer license, whatever. You can take licenses from server X, put it on server Y. Actually, you can do it without even contacting us. Multi-imager cameras are a single license. So if you have a camera that's got 4 images in it, 4 lenses, winds up being a single license. And we're scalable from 1 to thousands of devices. We have a product called CAS, which is a camera with the storage and Spectrum built into it. So you can just be its own NVR and gives you all the features of the digital Watchdog server, but in a single camera. So a PoE and an internet connection, and away you go. The open architecture cross-platform means we have our SDK, API, storage SDK built into every install of Spectrum, so someone can write their own apps to Spectrum. Okay, we're supported on Linux, we're supported on ARM processors, we're supported on Windows, and we have a Apple client. Okay, so again, and of course the clients for your Android and your iPhone products. And you can, of course, do your administration through the web. So some new features, those of you who maybe haven't been looking, I mean, I was running some of the new features on our new PTZ camera, is we've redesigned the PTZ controls. So we've tried to take that overlay out of it to make the visibility a little better. We've changed the way the drag and drop works. You can move it around a little easier for higher latency situations. And to do the advanced control, like draw a box and have it zoomed in, you hit the shift key. So again, just you can go in and just do all kinds of things with it, and we've made it, I think, a little easier to use in the interface, easier to work with. A lot of times you'll have products and they're doing high resolution video, high definition video, but your people who have weaker PCs may not be able to run a piece of software that's also running a bunch of 4K cameras. So what we've done is we looked at the Intel graphics, okay, and Intel QuickSync, and this goes back a couple of generations of processors and chipsets. So, and what we're able to do is even on lower powered hardware, run the higher resolution camera on clients. So let's say you have a client, they've got an old i3, an old Celeron. As long as they have the QuickSync in there, they update the browser, they'll be able to run these and play back and live view these higher resolution cameras on a more standard hardware. So we've made it easier for people to use Spectrum on a client. If they're doing a ton of processing of video and they're saving video and stuff like that, I would prefer them to have an i5 or i7 processor and a nice NVIDIA video card, but you can't always get what you want. So this way it allows you to do just a lower, slightly lower level of hardware to run the client. So we also added new functionality to the fisheye cameras. Different manufacturers have different ways they make fisheye work so everything dewarps properly. So we added the ability to look at these, whether the cameras are equal solid, equal distant, or stereographic. Digital Watchdog cameras are equidistant, so you'd set it for that. But your different manufacturers don't always tell you. So sometimes you got to kind of go in and guess. And a lot of times their tech support people won't know what kind of lensing they're using. So just keep that in mind, but allows you to make it look a little better. And as you can see, you can make it ceiling mount, wall mount. You can adjust your different XY offsets and your size in order to get it proper dewarp. And we're doing the dewarp on the client side. So we're not putting any extra load on the server to make this run. All right. Other new features that came in this year are system setup in the cloud. So now you can go to your cloud connection and actually look at the server and make changes, including camera credentials, camera orientation, turn on and off audio. If you want the camera to be HTTPS, it'll be HTTPS versus HTTP. Change your motion areas and motion sensitivities in the cloud. You can go in and also look at your systems. You can restart a system. You can rename it. You can change ports. You can go in and do all kinds of different things now in setup. You can look at your CPU utilization, get a whole bunch of different information on how it's working, okay, system load and stuff like that. You can even download a report where you can go in and then view what the different things going on with it. So it really is a powerful tool built into it where you can go in and just see everything that's going on the system, what version you're running, is it a 64-bit system, all kinds of information that either help tech support, help you do a quick troubleshooting, or you just want to know what's going on with the operation. Also, manage licenses. So now you can assign and activate licenses to a server from a cloud. So let's say someone added 4 cameras, they either didn't get the licenses on time or whatever. You can activate them remotely through the cloud portal, so you don't even need to use the client in order to do it. So you can go in and say, oh, I want to put these 4 servers or 8 servers or 2 servers are merged together. I want to activate these licenses on, let's say, this server, the CubeLX, but they're shared among every other server in the system. So they're available to every other server, but you may want to spread them out among different servers, for various reasons. So other things we've done this year is we've updated package validation, meaning if you go to our website or use we give you a code and we give you the build number and password and we download it, okay? The software has a way of validating that it is correct, which this prevents malware injection, which was a big problem for, what was the name of that company? SolarWinds and a few other companies where someone got in the middle and put malware into their update packages. We are now doing HTTPS by default. Okay, so allowing secure connections. Camera name and time can be overlaid on export. Okay, camera name automatically on snapshot, and they've changed the way it encodes the video so it's more friendly to Windows Media Player. Whether you need to be friendly with Windows Media Player or not, it seems to be everywhere. So you might as well use it. If you do ever run into problems, there's always VLC that seems to play everything. And the other player that also seems to play everything is actually the Spectrum client. Give it a try. Download like a clip from YouTube or something like that. It plays everything. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming in. It was a quick webinar. If you guys have any questions,